Walk with colleagues Mike Gross and Jeff Reinhardt. On the horn with us this week is Lancaster Bible College Director of Athletics Pete Beers and Millersville University Director of Athletics Miles Gallagher. We haven't had a chance to chat with, I guess, basically leaders of college programs in the county, and just in regards to what they're doing with the fall. Basically, all the 5 schools within Lancaster County have decided to make changes to their fall schedule in light of the current circumstances. And I guess I just kind of want to start there. Pete, I'll start with you, and then we'll throw it to Miles as far as, okay, Lancaster Bible College is in the Northeast Athletic Conference, and Millersville is in the PSAC. Can you guys just kind of go through and give us an update as to where you guys are for the fall, what's already been decided there?
Yeah. Well, I think it's like everything. There's so much unknown, and I think it's I tell often with athletic directors, they're a bunch of planners, and COVID has probably been the worst nightmare for planners because you plan and then things change on a weekly basis, and trying to figure out where things are. We had every hope of trying to see competition this fall, and unfortunately, just circumstances is just not allowing it. And so I think they've been suspended for the fall. I think there's some talk of revisiting it in the spring with some sports, with some of the fall sports. I think that's kind of wishful thinking, I think, with the logistics. I'm not sure how Millersville is with their budgets and stuff like that, but trying to do everything in the spring is going to be a nightmare as well. But I know what we're trying to do. We're trying to get hope. We're trying to say, hey, this is where we're at. I know for LBC, we're trying to get people back to campus, get people interacting, and trying to even take a little bit off of a red shirt option of saying, hey, how can we work out? How can we get strength and conditioning? How can we get academics? How can we work on the holistic development of our student athletes? So that's where we are right now. It was not an easy decision, but it's probably a decision that's probably across a lot of Eastern United States.
Miles,
fire away.
Same thing.
Yeah, so we, similar to what Pete just said, we really started planning in April as a conference and institution to bring our students back and compete. That was our intention the whole way and along. But as you started peeling this back further and further, with the various institutional decisions to, go predominantly online, it became very clear about a month ago that the conference was going to be getting to that decision to suspend athletics. So we obviously made that announcement. Where the conference is right now is no intercollegiate athletics competitions suspended until at least January 1, 2021. As of today, we are looking at some models to allow our student athletes that are on campus to work in a voluntary way with their coaches in small group or individual workouts, as well as with our strength and conditioning coaches. So I'm still holding out hope that that's going to be approved. And then also we're working on what a spring only looks like for all sports. And so there's been some initial models that have come out of some working groups within our conference. It is going to be a challenge, but we've been 100% committed to finding a way. It's really important. It's going to be a long spring, but if we can somehow pull it off, we're going to do our best to do that. So, that's where Millersville stands today. And, institutionally, we're at 80% remote. We're at least half or not more capacity cut out within the housing. So it's going to present some challenges this fall. And, I just hope we can keep staying positive and, find a way to be able to do something this fall with our student athletes.
Guys, tell us what athletics means in your university community, intangibly, but also tangibly. Does it affect admissions? What does it mean? What does it mean to each of your schools to have intercollegiate athletics? Pete.
Sure.
You're on the spot.
There you go. I think, just as a philosophical point, we believe in the value of athletics and how it brings out lessons. And I mean, people talk about it, but I think at the end of the day, you really have an opportunity to find out a lot about people through sport. And I mean, Miles will probably tell you, like, just like our athletic team, like our coaching staff, you find out a lot about your team just in the coaching staff. And so I think when you talk about the tangible, I mean, we are a tuition-driven institution, and we feel like one of our ways of impacting lives is through sport. And so when you lose the tangible part that people get to see, that the carrot, the proverbial carrot sometimes that they're saying, I think it makes it challenging. And that's what we're trying to figure out, how we can look at this semester and see if we're still able to impact the lives of our young people. What effect it's going to have on campus, we're in the process of trying to figure that. Right now, we feel like we have good connection with our teams, but their first bill is due August 5th. And so I'll tell you in a week. I mean, yeah, there's communication, but I mean, bottom line is people have to bring their dollars and trying to make sure that they're going to get the value for that dollar. I mean, it is higher education. And so this is something that they're building for life. And so we'll see. I mean, I don't know if I have a strong answer on that, but I think it is.
You do. And it reminded me, what you just said reminded me so much of some things that I've heard, like Division III basketball coaches say to me in the past about recruiting, and where you don't really know when you recruit a kid, you don't really know you have him until he shows up in August with a check, and the money's. I mean, not to be harsh about it, but you know what I mean. I think that's what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a big investment. I mean, it's an investment, but we look at it as an investment, not as a transaction. And so they're putting a significant amount of dollars that's saying, hey, I want my son or daughter to have this experience. And when part of that experience is taken away, the value of the investment has to be relooked at. And so I think it's a challenging thing. It's a challenge to higher ed all across America right now. So.
Same question for Miles.
Yeah, and very similar to Pete, we're facing some of those same challenges. And at the Division II level and at Millersville, we still have a holistic approach, and it's about that development of a student. And we've always felt that there's nothing better than that student-athlete experience to develop leadership. And when you take that component away, that's their identity. That's our student-athletes' identity on campus and what they're about, why they're there. Is a large portion of it is the athletic component. So we're dealing with that from a mental health standpoint to how do we keep them interacted over Zoom and other different formats. So that is definitely a challenge. The impacts just from a campus environment and pride standpoint, athletics is a leader on our campus for the pride of what it's like to be a Marauder. When you strip that out, as well as some other things, it feels empty. And then from an enrollment perspective, I mean, even though we're a little bit of a bigger institution, our student athletes were one of the biggest drivers for out-of-state international students. The campus, we have almost 30% of our student athletes are out of state. We have quite a significant portion of international students over the last couple of years. So when you factor those in, there is some impact from an overall enrollment. And then I would say last for us, probably the biggest challenge is at Division II, we're allowed to offer scholarships, and we have to raise that money, a significant portion of it. And when you're relying on revenues, not to the point of the Power Fives or anything like that, but we are significantly relying on revenues from running our facilities to camps to ticketing that we potentially lose. Those are the things that keep me up at night.
Yeah, that's a tough one when you talk camps and gate. That's a huge part of things. So
the three of us right now are knee deep in PIAA stuff with the kids and health and safety plans and 26-page return to action plans. I've been around to a couple of high schools here in the last couple of weeks. So I've seen what those sessions and workouts look like What's going on your campuses right now? Are there athletes around? Are they allowed to be around? Are your weight rooms open? Is Pusilo open? What's going on there? What kind of contact are your coaches and players allowed to be having this summer, if any?
Yeah, Jeff, right now it's none. Our fields are open during the week, but our coaches are not allowed to interact, including, we have a pretty amazing strength and conditioning staff and facility, and right now everything's closed.
No kids around at all.
Yep.
Pete, same thing?
No, for us, yes, on the athletic with our athletes, but we did have a couple camps. We've had a couple camps over the past few weeks. And so there's been a little bit of action, if you want to say, on our campus, which has been a blessing to see. Some of the young kids who have, like, their parents are just so thankful that something was able to happen this summer for them. So we feel good about that, but it's not our athletes. Our fitness facility is open with a max of 6 in it, and so they go, and you can schedule by appointment only. Get in for about 50 minutes. So there's a little bit for the people who live around, but it's very limited.
Oh, and Miles, I went to Millersville camps when I was a kid. I remember going to the basketball camp still. So that you're not having any of that. There's nothing.
Yeah, so we're facility-wise, we're shut down from a camp and outside group. That is a big revenue generator for us from a scholarship perspective. So we've really had to adjust this summer, but the university, we've made the decision, nothing at least through August at this point.
Wow.
And for both of you guys, I know in the last couple of weeks, I've basically been talking to you a lot about several topics. One of them being, college being different from high school, and that, okay, high school's obviously located centrally and people are within close distance to each other, whereas college sports is completely different. And that's kind of a large part of what contributed to no fall sports for either of your conferences. Without saying it for you, could you just kind of shed a little bit of light on that as far as where your student athletes are coming from and why that presents difficulties as far as, or challenges or risks have you with COVID and bringing them to campus and trying to play sports? Pete, go ahead.
All right. I don't know if I'm always leading off or not, so Miles can bat me in, I guess. I think, we have a lot. I mean, there's, and the hard part now is even the stipulations that our governor is putting with quarantines and different things like that. I don't have the percentage. That would have been a good stat to look up what the percentage of out-of-staters that we have, but we do have significant. I know we have several from Florida. And so I think that there's things that you are trying to figure out how it's going to work out. But I think I don't know that necessarily the athletes coming from out of state was the reason we did that. It was for us. I mean, we have a footprint in Maryland, New York, and Pennsylvania, and so I think it's accommodations, it's travel, it's the social distancing and trying to make sure that people that we're struggling. That's where the struggles are. It's we don't know what the next person's doing. Like, everyone thinks that they're right, but that doesn't mean. I mean, look at the Marlins. I don't know if the Marlins thought they were doing a good job, and
yeah, they're not right. Yeah, I don't know what they think, but they're not right.
But everybody. I mean, in Major League Baseball, they're not in a bubble. So I mean, you're trusting that people are doing the right thing, and so I think that's the hard part about it, is just trying to figure out. And so I think. I think I told John this a week or two ago. I just said, I think at the end of the day, I will fight my hardest to get us back in person. Because I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of kids that don't want online learning. They like the in-person. And even if the in-person requires some adjustments, I think people would prefer that over going back into their homes and having to watch Zoom all the time.
Wow, you got guys from all over, kids from all over, yes?
Yeah, so I think I may have said it earlier, but we have about 30% out of state. I think we were up to about 14 or 15 international students as well this fall. So that obviously has some challenges, but that wasn't the decision-making factor for us. Really as a conference, when, and institutionally, as you're looking through your policies, everything that you can do, we do believe we could create probably the safest environment possible on campus with our, healthcare sources and everything else. But without regular testing, to be able to test and get quick results, as well as just the inability to social distance in most of our sports, and no true answer as to what happens when a student does get COVID-19, because it's not an if. We're going to have student athletes just like the high schools are going to have it as well. What does that mean? Does that mean it's just that student quarantine for 2 weeks? Does that mean it's the whole team? Does that mean it's the visiting team as well that you just played on Saturday? The example, that we've come back to is, can you imagine if the starting center on the football team had COVID on Monday? Does that mean all the defensive tackles from the visiting team, your entire offensive line? There's so many touch points. So until you can test regularly, or there's a shift in acceptance, I would say, from a societal standpoint, we just came to the conclusion we couldn't do it safely at this point.
Hey, guys, you both, in both your cases, these decisions to suspend or cancel, or whatever word you want to hang on it, were conference decisions. Now, we know just from the general media perusal of America that there is a wide variety of opinion, including some people who think this whole thing is a hoax. This whole virus is a hoax. Was there, when you're getting together with your conference brethren, were there people kind of out in the fringe who were thinking, this is a load of crap, let's just play? I mean, how much variety was there in sort of the discussion that went into this?
Well, I might be that person. No, just kidding. Because I think it's real. I mean, I think it's real. I think it's, but I also think there's a lot of real things that have happened in our lifetime that we haven't made as, like, we didn't have Twitter and H1N1, swine flu, like different things that over the years have caused significant concern. But I think there's so much unknown with this. I mean, I will share this. This is kind of interesting. Do you know that no 18-year-olds have died from COVID-19 in the world? Wow. So
that's another piece of it. That's another piece of this that I wonder if that came up in these discussions about this is apparently, based on the preponderance of the evidence, a hard disease for young, healthy people to maybe not get, but to get sick from, right?
So yeah. Mike, I think you make a great point, but one of the challenges is we have coaches and staff members and faculty members on campus. I think if you ask people truly what scares them the most, it's probably not necessarily as much the student athlete. They're healthy, even though there's a lot of unknowns there that still I wasn't comfortable with. It's the coaches, the staff members, the faculty members they interact with, the dining staff, the grounds crew. It's a lot more than just the insulated team itself.
No question.
Yeah.
Miles, help me with this one. Just to go back to the spring, as a scholarship university, what's going to happen with the spring folks? Are they going to get to come back and get a season like the baseball guys, the softball ladies, the seniors from last spring? I've never got like a straight answer of how that's going to fly. What are you anticipating there as a scholarship university? Are you going to have seniors coming back next spring who should have been gone but are going to get another season? Have you guys crossed that bridge yet?
We took it individual, case by case. And so I believe as of today, we have 7 students coming back that would have exhausted eligibility, but, want to give it a run. I've really encouraged our student athletes and coaches to really think hard about that decision. We're going to find the scholarship money. We're going to make it happen. That's our responsibility to do that. But when we offer partial scholarships, those students are paying the majority of that fee. And so for me, our communication is it's got to tie into what you're trying to do academically. I wouldn't make a decision where you're going to put yourself further in debt with the hopes of playing. So we have about 7 coming back, and we're going to try to make it happen for them.
7 total across all the spring sports?
Yes,
Men's,
across all the
women's?
spring sports.
Men's, women's, okay. And that could change, but as of now, 7. And obviously, there's probably going to be PSAC schools that are going to have way more than 7. You probably don't envy those staffs to have to figure all that out.
You know, look, when a student gets to be a senior at that point, you need to do everything in your power to help them in whatever direction that is. And so, you know, it ended up not being a ton of money to bring them back on scholarship, but you know, in the grand scheme of things, they really need to think hard about what that full picture looks like. And does that mean get your degree and move on? And for others, you know, they're willing to take that, you know, risk and, you know, try to give it one more shot.
To kind of wrap this thing up kind of on a more positive note, Pete, I wanted to kind of ask you if you could kind of share some of the perspective of how you're approaching this academic year. Because I think when I last got off the phone with you, you had a kind of a change of mind per se, as far as, okay, this is the situation I'm in, how am I going to handle it, and let's move forward.
Yeah, so I think the hard part, when you're in it for the students and trying to see them get the most out of this experience, because you feel like it's part of where they are, to see that taken away from them. I mean, Miles said it's their identity, and I think that's it's so harsh to hear that. But it's their identity for this season, for this moment in time, because not in the wrong way, they are going to graduate, they are going to go on to a career, and then their identity will shift a little, right? I mean, and so I think that's the thing for me has been like, okay, so what are the things that we can do that in-house we can address that maybe we don't have time to address with the regular season, and the busyness of life that gets into how we talk about relationships, whether it's dating, how we talk about finances, having things. In fact, one of my coaches came back with relationships 101, finances 101, dating 101, like doing different things that we're looking at that maybe, like, sometimes we give lip service to holistic development, that maybe we can put a little more time into strength training, where they're able to get themselves in a right place. And Miles also said earlier, like, I think I think what's been overlooked and now it's starting to even come out even today is the mental component of what COVID has done to so many people who are in good places. I mean, who don't have the struggles. I mean, then you can imagine the people that are in trouble. Like, I think I told John, like, it was probably April or May. I have a job, I'm getting paid. My wife has a job, she's getting paid. My kids all have jobs and they're getting paid. And mentally I was struggling. And I'm thinking to myself, why am I struggling? Like, I shouldn't be struggling. I'm okay. But there's just something about being alone and being separate. We're not meant to be alone. We're meant to interact with people and to do things for most of us. And we challenge each other and grow each other. And so that's kind of where I've gone with how we're looking at this fall and trying to make it something that's going to be a positive, that hopefully they can take some, and it's not something that we missed out on, but this was a growing year for us.
Well, maybe that's a story we can do this fall, Pete. We'll get back to you and see how you've done with that project. That's pretty interesting. Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that is.
Miles, any last parting words from you, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I'll hit on what, you know, Pete said as well. The mental side of things has really been from, you know, when you're leading people, how do you keep them mentally okay? And I literally before this call, I was just on with a coach that's, you know, just had an event today. You know, it's like a frustration. I don't want to have to tell my student athletes another negative thing. So the coaches, just like the student athletes, we're all dealing with that. And my mentality going into this is we're all dealing with it, not just Millersville, every PASHE school. I wouldn't be surprised if Division II, the rest of the Division II is with us here shortly. And we're either going to find a way to come out of it on the front end better or the back end better, or we're going to go backwards. And so there's a lot of things we can be doing to find a way to get better during this time. And complacency isn't one of them. So, you know, our plan is to work with our student athletes on various things like mental health. We have a program in place that, you know, goes step by step on some educational tools. as well as with our coaches. I'm really challenging them right now from a professional development perspective to take a step back and really evaluate your program. Like, where do we need to improve? And a lot of times coaches don't get that opportunity because it's from one season to the next. So that's where we're at, and we're going to take it one day at a time and stay positive. And, hopefully we're able to do some stuff in the fall and get rolling in January.
Appreciate your
Hey,
honesty.
gentlemen, thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Keep your heads up, and hopefully we'll be talking sports again here soon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, man.
Hang in there.
See you guys. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Good stuff, both of you.